money, ego. I wanna travel around the world, living without sorrows. Chopping anything I want, yeah, no shake coco. Flexing on my BTC without living solo and without fearing popo. Asking for the money for my papi and my mommy, cause I believe in my journey, yeah. Believe say better days are coming. Badura Mushami. 8,000 you call me, cause everything I go in. Omo to dara ti baba to baya mani ti mama. So mo de fe ya ma sita kile dara wale. Bishu soko kile kero wale. Grinding my way to the top. Yet I'm waiting on God, cause I love Baroni because Baba. Just pick up my calls. I don't shoot my shot.
The scream Zainab let out when she saw the empty mansion wasn't just loud. It sounded like something was tearing inside her. She was standing there, 8 months pregnant, clutching a designer bag that suddenly felt like a piece of useless leather, staring at a gate that would never open for her again. I was Chief Adeyemi's driver for 5 years, so I saw everything. I saw when the money started smelling, and I saw when he started smelling like a man who had a secret. That secret was Zainab. Zainab was beautiful. She had the kind of skin that looked like it was washed in milk and honey. When Chief first met her at a Lagos party, he told me, "Look man, this girl is trouble, but I want that trouble." They had a deal. It was clear. Chief was a wealthy cocoa merchant with a wife, Amina, and 2 kids he adored. He told Zainab from day one, "I will pay your rent in Lekki. I will buy you a car. I will give you a monthly allowance that can feed a village. But do not ever get pregnant. If a baby comes, this game ends." Zainab agreed. She laughed and said she wasn't ready to lose her flat stomach anyway. For 2 years, it was perfect. She was the cool side chick. She traveled to Dubai, wore the best lace, and took pictures in Chief's expensive cars for her Instagram. But then, the greed started growing. She didn't just want the money anymore, she wanted the title. She stopped taking her pills. I remember the day she told him. We were parked in front of a fancy restaurant. Chief came out looking like he had seen a ghost. He entered the car and didn't say a word for 30 minutes. Zainab followed him out, rubbing her stomach and smiling at me through the rearview mirror. It wasn't a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who thought they had finally caught a big fish. "Look man," Chief finally whispered as we drove away. "She's pregnant. She says she's keeping it." I knew right then that the peace in Chief's house was about to catch fire. Zainab didn't want to be a secret anymore. She wanted to be the queen, and she didn't care who she had to burn to get the crown. Once the pregnancy hit 4 months, Zainab threw her cool girl mask into the lagoon. She didn't want the quiet life in Lekki anymore. She wanted the big mansion in Ikoyi where Madam Amina lived. It started with the phone calls. I would be cleaning the car in the morning, and I'd hear Chief's phone buzzing non-stop on the dashboard. He would look at the screen, hiss, and toss it aside. But Zainab wasn't the type to be ignored. When he didn't pick up, she went after the wife. She found Madam Amina's number. She started sending her photos, not even photos of her and Chief together, but photos of the expensive jewelry Chief bought her, or the ultrasound of the baby boy she was sure she was carrying. One afternoon, I was driving Madam Amina to a wedding. Her phone chimed. She opened a message and I saw her whole body go stiff. Her hand started shaking so hard she dropped the phone. It was a photo of Chief sleeping in Zainab's bed. Zainab had sent it with a caption, "He's tired from taking care of his new family. Give him space today." Madam Amina didn't cry. She was a woman of grace, the daughter of a judge. She just stared out the window. "Look man," she said quietly. "Drive me home. I'm not going to the party anymore." From that day, the house became a graveyard. Chief would come home, and the food would be cold. The kids would be upstairs, and Madam Amina would be in her room with the door locked. Instead of Chief fixing it, he spent more time at Zainab's place just to have some peace. But that was exactly what Zainab wanted. She started pushing him to let her move in. "Your wife doesn't love you," she would tell him while I was waiting in the parlor to take him home. "Look at how she treats you. I am the one carrying your heir. I should be the one in that big house, not that woman who makes you miserable." Zainab became a social media lioness. She started posting hints on Instagram, tagging the location as future Ikoyi resident. She even had the nerve to show up at the gate of the family house one Sunday morning. I was the one at the gate. She came out of her car, her stomach pointing forward like a weapon. "Look man, open this gate," she shouted. "I want to see the father of my child. I am tired of living in a rented house while my husband's first wife is enjoying AC in a mansion that belongs to me too." The neighbors were peeping from their fences. It was a big disgrace. Chief had to come out, barefoot and sweating, to beg her to leave. He gave her another 5 million naira just to make her go home that day. Zainab left, but she looked at the house with a look of, "I'll be back soon." She really believed that because she was pregnant, she had become the owner of the man and his life. She didn't know that Chief Adeyemi was a man who loved his peace more than he loved his money. And she didn't know that Madam Amina, the quiet woman she was mocking, was already packing her bags, but not for the reason Zainab thought. By the time Zainab was 7 months along, she was acting like she had already signed the title deeds to the Ikoyi mansion. She started calling interior decorators, telling them she wanted to change the curtains in her new home from cream to royal gold. She even sent a truck to the house with a brand new nursery set, telling the delivery men to drop it in the master bedroom. Madam Amina didn't even argue with the delivery men. She just told them to leave the boxes in the garage. She was so calm it was scary. Chief, on the other hand, stopped shouting. That was the sign I should have noticed. When a Nigerian man stops complaining about the money you are spending or the trouble you are causing, just know he has finished his maths in his head. One night, Chief called me into his private study. The room was filled with folders and travel documents. "Look man," he said, rubbing his face. "Zainab thinks she has me in a corner because of this baby. She thinks I would throw away 20 years of marriage and the peace of my children because of a mistake I made in a hotel room. She's calling my wife's father. She's calling our church. She wants to destroy everything." He looked up at me, and his eyes were cold. "I am a cocoa merchant, Lukman. I know how to move products so they are never found. I am going to give Zainab exactly what she asked for, a life without me disturbing her." For the next 3 weeks, I was working double shifts. But I wasn't driving Chief to see Zainab. I was driving trucks under the cover of night. We were moving things, not to a warehouse, but to a secret location. Chief had bought a new property in a highbrow, gated estate in a different part of the country, somewhere Zainab had no connections. He even processed visas and school transfers. Zainab didn't notice any of this. She was too busy posting on Facebook about karma and when the side chick becomes the main chick. She was so high on her own pride that she didn't see the ground disappearing under her feet. On a Friday morning, Chief gave her a call. "Zainab, baby," he said, his voice sounding sweeter than a ripe cocoa pod. "I've listened to you. You're right. Amina is leaving the house tomorrow. I've sorted her out. On Saturday afternoon, come to the Ikoyi house with your bags. The gate will be open. Everything inside is yours." Zainab screamed with joy so loud I could hear it from the front seat. She started calling her friends, telling them to get ready for a housewarming/baby shower party. Saturday came. I drove Chief, Madam Amina, and the 2 children to the airport early in the morning. Madam Amina looked at me and squeezed my hand. "Thank you, Lukman," she said, "for keeping our secret." I watched them board. They weren't just moving houses, they were moving their entire lives away from the madness. Chief handed me a heavy envelope and the keys to a small apartment he had bought for me in my village. "Lukman, go home for a few months," he said. "The Ikoyi house is empty. Let the wind stay there with her." By 2 p.m., I was parked a few blocks away from the Ikoyi mansion, just watching. Zainab arrived in a convoy of 3 cars, filled with her cousins and friends. They were all wearing matching outfits, ready to take over. She stepped out of the car, looking like a queen. She pushed the gate open, expecting to see a house full of servants waiting to bow. Zainab didn't just walk into the house, she marched in like a general who had just won a war. Her friends were behind her, filming everything on their phones for the gram. They were shouting, "Our queen has arrived," and "Levels don't change." But as soon as she stepped past the heavy wooden front doors, the shouting stopped. The house was cold. And I don't mean the cold of an air conditioner. It was the cold of an empty tomb. There were no rugs on the floor. There were no paintings on the walls. The massive crystal chandelier that used to hang in the foyer was gone, leaving only a bunch of ugly wires dangling from the ceiling. Zainab ran to the kitchen. Empty. She ran upstairs to the master bedroom. It was bare. Chief hadn't just moved his wife, he had stripped the house of its soul. Every memory, every piece of furniture, every spoon had been cleared out. She pulled out her phone and dialed Chief's number. "The number you are calling is switched off. Please try again later." She dialed his office. His secretary told her she didn't know what she was talking about and that Chief was on an extended family vacation out of the country. She tried to call the other drivers, the house helps, the cousins, everybody had blocked her. Zainab sat down on the hard, dusty floor of the empty master bedroom. The friends who had followed her started whispering. Within 30 minutes, they began to disappear one by one. They didn't want to be part of a sinking ship. They came for the party, but there was no food, no music, and no Chief. A week later, the real shocker came. A lawyer served her a notice. The Ikoyi house didn't even belong to Chief anymore, he had sold it months ago to a foreign company. She had no right to be there. I saw Zainab one last time about 3 months after she gave birth. She wasn't living in Lekki or Ikoyi. She was back in a small, cramped apartment in a noisy part of the mainland. The glow was gone. Her eyes were sunken, and she looked 10 years older. The baby was beautiful, yes, but a baby cannot pay for designer bags or hospital bills. She saw me at a local market and for a second, I thought she would shout at me. Instead, she just stood there holding her son. "Lukman," she whispered. "Where are they?" "I don't know, Zainab," I lied. I knew they were in a beautiful villa in a place where the air smells like the ocean, far away from her drama. She looked down at the floor, tears leaking from her eyes. I thought I was smart. I thought because I was young and pretty, I could take what belonged to another woman. I had a man who loved me before I met Chief, a simple man, a teacher. He wanted to marry me with nothing, but I told him he wasn't my level. She wiped her face with the back of her hand. Now, I have a child for a man who has erased me from his life. I have no husband, no home, and no peace. I was chasing a crown that was never meant for my head. She walked away, struggling with the baby's bag. She wasn't the queen of Ikoyi anymore. She was just another woman who realized too late that a stolen throne is never a home. If this story resonated with you, If it made you think about the lines we cross for the soft life and the peace we lose when we try to take what isn't ours, we'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Have you ever witnessed someone try to build their happiness on another person's tears? Have you ever had to find the courage to protect your peace and walk away when a situation became toxic? Share your thoughts and your journey with this community. And if you believe that integrity, family boundaries, and self-respect matter for everyone, regardless of the cars they drive or the labels they wear, then hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and share this story with someone who needs to hear it today. Because stories like Zainab's aren't just about a side chick and a wealthy man. They're about the choices we all make when we're tested by greed and ambition. They're about the reality that a stolen throne is never a home, and that true success can never be built on someone else's foundation. Thank you for watching. And remember, you are enough, exactly as you are. You don't need to tear someone else down to rise.